Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Year number 25. Got a lot to get into. Dave Parker finally in the Hall of Fame. Spending or not for the Pirates. We'll get into that. Also, we'll talk about Penn State, SMU, Pitt going to a bowl game I've never heard of. But the #1 topic tonight of the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is going to be your 10-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. And here to debate is your panel tonight, Jeff Hatthorn, sports director at 93.7 The Fan. To the left, in the middle, it's Mark Kaboly from the Pat McAfee Show. And to his left, it would be Jason Mackey, columnist with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. So, Mark, start with you. Steelers won a game. I don't think that's a surprise. It took a while to get going, and the defense once again got the offense going. That's been a recipe for success. Your observations about this win and what it means?
I think it was a very important win. I mean, this was all set up for a disaster waiting to happen that I do believe that could have trickle-down effect for the whole season. I might be going off the rails a little bit here, but you don't have George Pickens playing. You struggle early in that game. You lose to Cleveland, and you got this tough schedule ahead of you with 3 games in, 10 or 11 days. This could have been, you could look back on it 2-3 weeks from now and say, oh, this team, where they hit their peak was, where they start going downhill was after this Cleveland win. They were able to brush that off. I think a lot has to do with Russell Wilson and his leadership. We talk about Russell Wilson's 400 yards passing and his touchdowns and how much he means to the team. I think we saw today what he really means to the team. Holding them together.
Stabilizing force.
I mean, he's in there, and he's got the positive attitude. He has all those receivers believing that they are the guy, so that's when they make plays for him. I think this is a big stepping stone in the rest of the December and into the playoffs.
Well, we've seen it a couple of times this year. Even when it looks like there should be panic, Russ isn't panicking because he's 36. He's been through all of this before, and it's a little different this year. And you're right. I mean, I don't know if we'd say trap game, but it is one where you're like, they say they're not looking, but you know that those games are in front of you, and you don't have George, and things weren't going your way early. Thankfully for the Steelers, there were a couple of kicks missed that impacted this game as well, but they found a way to make plays on defense, different guys making plays. And then how about some of those catches on the sidelines by guys not named George? Good for them. I mean, they've heard it all year.
How Mike Williams made a catch,
I mean, Scotty Miller had a catch. I mean, those guys have heard all year. Mike hasn't. He just got here, but about how they don't have a number 2 receiver, and some guys stepped up today. Good for them.
One of the things I was most impressed with today, Pomp, was the defense and their ability to take the ball away, to create splash plays, to give the offense short fields. I mean, the Steelers needed something to get going, and Keanu Benton provided that. They needed something to put the game away. James Pierre provided that. I thought Landon Roberts was really good.
Big play.
Cam Hayward, I don't know how he's 35 and playing at this level. And in a game where you needed to sort of pressure Jameis Winston and force him into some mistakes, I thought they did that. That's been the consistent theme with this Steelers team, is the defense's ability to create plus plays, to give the team momentum. And when the offensive start was slow, yes, Russ was good. Yes, he sort of kept everybody together. But the defense, I think, is what got this thing rolling.
But they responded, and they, used that as an opportunity to go on and get points. And they got points on every. You mentioned the 4th and 1 on Landon Roberts. They turned that into a touchdown.
Yep.
So the missed Hopkins field goal turned into a touchdown. All this stuff matters. Jeff, I want to go to you on this one and talk about George Pickens. He did not play. So I thought his value increased as a wide receiver in terms of future dealings with either the Steelers or anyone else. I thought his presence was missed, not just because he makes those great plays. What it means for defenses to have to cover him, it opens up other things for other people.
Well, I mean, he's a difference maker, whether he played or didn't in this game. I mean, you look at his numbers, you know what he means to this team. They don't have a chunk play guy, at least one that's fairly consistent, except for George. They don't have anybody like that, and those are hard to find. I mean, he's 6th in the NFL in receiving yards heading into the game. PFF loves him, and I think he is 3rd in the league at catches of 20 or more.
Yeah.
They haven't had that for a long time.
Yeah, you saw today they found themselves in some 3rd and shorts, 3rd and manageables, and they would flip it up to Mike Williams, they'd flip it up to somebody else, and they weren't able to connect on those. Those are plays that they relied on to get chunk plays in the past. And they weren't able to do that today because all you had to do was get the ball in the vicinity of George. Obviously, he was not there. I do give him some credit, though. One thing I do give credit to is everybody in that locker room had his back, too.
Yep.
there's not one person even say, hey, man, he's hurt. I mean, this
and they
stuff
said he
happens.
was active during the game. Like he was
Yeah,
talking
he was
to
on the
guys, giving
sidelines quite a bit,
advice.
right.
That was good.
So that's a plus moving forward here, because that, once again, that could have been a disaster too if he's over there pouting and whatnot too.
I'm not saying this to take away from George Pickens' importance to the Steelers' offense. I don't know if we needed a reminder, though. I mean, we knew he was really good. You know, based on where his head's at, the way the conversation is, or if he can harness this. Everybody who watches the Steelers is well aware of George Pickens' value. I have no idea what the contract's going to be, Bob, but I mean, I knew going into this game I would like to see the Steelers keep George Pickens. I think he's an important part of what they do. He does things that few receivers can do. Yeah, we saw with him not out there what that means and how important he is to the team. I guess that's the overarching point we can take away. But yeah, I mean, his value was high before this. It continues to be high because of how rare his talent is.
All right, I want to go down the stretch now. Talk to you guys about what's next, because now the gauntlet that we've all talked about since the schedule came out. Mark, start with you here on the next 3 games. How do you see them playing out, knowing now that Buffalo lost today in a 44-42 shootout to the Rams, so they have the same amount of losses that the Steelers do, and Buffalo will have to go to Detroit next week?
You know, I think the key right now, it's going to be hard to get number 1 seed, right? Regardless if you win out, because
is it?
I mean, well, Kansas City's going to have to lose 2 games here,
and one of them could
one
be to the Steelers.
So I would say the sights would be more on the number 2, and the reason why I say that, if you do get the number 2 seed, I know they've pretty much had their way with Baltimore. But I want to avoid Baltimore in the playoffs if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. And right now, if you look at it, if they're the 3 seed, they'd be playing Baltimore right now. That would probably be the 6 seed. That could move, obviously. But this is a tough stretch right here. I wouldn't put anything past them either, man. I wouldn't put anything past them winning all 3 of these games either. I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, the Baltimore game, I think, is the one that sticks out to me. It might be the toughest out of them all. But I think this will really dictate of how legitimate of a Super Bowl contender is to win it all rather than just getting there.
I mean, can't tell you how many times I left Philadelphia after the Steelers were pummeled there. I mean, it's just not been a place where they have won.
It's like Cleveland in a way.
Yeah, it's been a tough place for them. That's going to be a tough. I mean, here's the thing, though. You get one of those, you get to 11, and then you get Cincinnati, you can get to 12. I mean, I seriously look at this. You can get one of the 3. That may not be so bad.
Baltimore,
I'm not thinking that they're a top seed in the AFC.
I want 2. I don't expect 3. 2 would be great.
2 would be good. If you get 2, then you should be in a prime position to play a home playoff game.
Only get one,
we'll
you
see.
take Baltimore.
Yeah, pretty much. That way they don't have anything to do as far as tiebreakers are concerned. All right, when we come back, we'll continue this conversation, and we'll also delve into baseball spending and the college football scene right now. It's the first time ever we've seen 12 teams in a playoff. So how does it look for Penn State? We'll talk about it coming up. All right, we have a busy night here. We're going to get into some college now because we're going to see the 12-team playoff for the very first time. Penn State is in it, even though they lost to Oregon yesterday in the Big Ten championship game. But, Jeff, I want to ask you about this matchup here, SMU. It looks like if you had to pick a path to a potential to get deep into this, it would be SMU at home, all due respect to them because I thought they deserved to get in, and then Boise State, although that's a wild card. They're a pretty talented team with one of the best running backs in the country. Do you like this draw?
Yeah, I think they've got the draw in this. I mean, and listen, SMU saw them against Pitt. I mean, they were explosive offensively, and they had a monster comeback to tie it up against a good Clemson defense. But, yeah, that's what I would want to see if I'm a Penn State fan. The only thing if I'm going to get picky, I would have wished it would have been at night, full whiteout at night where it's colder for SMU to come to State College.
Yeah, and what you guys talk about, Jason, what happens if Franklin loses this game at home to an SMU team?
I still don't think he gets crushed. I mean, obviously they want him to win, right? Like, and I don't know. I mean, it was tough seeing them against Oregon, Pomp. I don't think they played that bad. I don't think that, the overarching takeaway was that they did a ton wrong. They just got beat by a team that was better than them. And SMU, I guess they're not better than Penn State by ranking, by eye test, that sort of thing, but getting there, getting to host a game, getting to be in that position, I mean, sooner or later, James Franklin has to win a big game. He's 1-5 or 1-14, against top 5 teams. That can't continue. But at the same time, I'm just trying to sort of think about the Penn State fan base and how they're going to take a loss if that happens. I also don't think they're going to lose, by the way. But
9-point favorites. It's a pretty big line.
I think they will win. I think it's a moot point.
SMU does have some talented individuals.
And they're fast.
Athletic individuals.
Penn State played the best team in the country to within a touchdown.
Yeah, and they're
also
fast
gave
too.
up 40
Same kind of
points.
team.
Well,
49
yeah.
points.
And SMU's going to go a couple of weeks
That's
hearing
Oregon
about how they
style.
don't deserve to be in there, so they're going to be fired up.
Well, the good thing about the Franklin against top 5 teams, they don't have to play one the first 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you get?
That makes it even worse, though, if it's considered a playoff and you don't win. That's a big game. It's not top 5.
Georgia potentially in the semis for the right to play for the.
I think Georgia
I'll take that
is a
chance
good
right
team,
now.
but that's a team I think they can actually beat, given their quarterback situation.
I mean, you can have a whole conversation about the whole bracket in itself here and how screwy it is in my eyes.
Well, I think at the end of it, we're going to like this. A lot of people wonder.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I'm going to like it too. I think it's going to go to 16, though.
And listen, guys, if you're Alabama, don't lose to Vanderbilt.
Right.
Don't lose to an average Oklahoma team. They're crying and whining about, they're don't lose to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, on the other side of this Pitt now, Jeff. I mean, they go to this bowl in Detroit. Game on bowl, is that what it's called? I don't even know.
Game above bowl.
Game above bowl.
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe the game beyond bowl's a different
The day
one.
after
It's in
Christmas at
Birmingham.
2
Game
p.m.
nobody cares about. Bowl.
yeah.
But I mean, you got to play the game. My question to you is, what do you have guys like Eli Holstein who may be looking for more money? This is the reality of today's college football. Would he play in that game? Do you expect opt-outs in a game like that?
Why not play Julian Duggar?
Well, that's interesting.
Why not play him? See what you got. I mean, you're going to be playing young guys. Anyone that's has any type of injury or is looking to leave or looking to go into the draft, they're not going to play in this game. So you're going to be playing a lot of young guys. Why not just go all out?
Well, so many guys have gone on the transfer portal already.
Right.
A few.
I mean,
right?
Diefenbach is kind of a question.
Right.
You don't know if he's going to stick around, and Holstein's hurt. If he were to get further hurt in this game, that would be a poor decision.
I can't imagine Holstein plays in this. I see no reason for him to play in this game. Like, what is he going to prove by playing this other than risking injury? And that's the same for a lot of guys, right? Desmond Reed, I don't know what's going to happen with him. Like, would you play this game? He's got one more year, probably wants to come back healthy. Anybody with a sniff at the NFL, they're going to go. I mean, it's a shame. It's a real shame to have started 7-0, have all the optimism that surrounded Pitt's team, and it ends December 26th in Detroit with the game above bowl.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not where I
don't even know why you accept that bid. I'm guessing it has something to do with money, but you're not even going to get that much practice in because it's, 2 weeks from now. You're not going to play players that matter. You can potentially lose to Toledo on the day after Christmas in front of about 13 people at the Little Caesars Bowl or whatever. It just seems like it doesn't make any sense why they even would choose to go to this game. As for Holstein, he'd be crazy to play this game.
Well, I was reading a couple of teams already have had a lot of opt-outs. If they're not playing for a national championship, some of these players are not going to want to do that. So we'll see how that goes. When we come back, we're going to talk about Dave Parker getting in the Hall of Fame, some Pirates spending or not spending. What do they have to do in this offseason? And then later we'll get into the Penguins, who got a big win last night against a Stanley Cup contending kind of team. That's next. Hot Stove League is underway. We got the baseball winter meetings. And first, the good news that Dave Parker finally has made it into the Hall of Fame. I just wonder why it took so long. Jason Mackey, why does this stuff take so long? I mean, he deserves it. Now he's struggling with Parkinson's disease.
Yep.
How much time will he have to celebrate it, actually? It's not fair.
Yeah, I don't have a magic answer for that, Bob. It takes way longer than it should. I covered a lot of it. Why they're so tight with stuff like that, I don't understand. It's a question I've asked of so many people. Why isn't Dave Parker in the Hall of Fame? Some of it was the drug trials. I'm not saying that's the answer, but that's sort of the suspected answer. I don't get it, man. I look at what Dave Parker has meant to this city, the career that he's had. He should have been in long ago. I know he won't get a ton of time to spend celebrating it, but he'll get some. Yeah. He'll get more than Dick Allen, obviously. Dick Allen, yeah. And it had to happen. It's long overdue. I'm incredibly happy for Dave. I've talked to Dave about what the Hall of Fame means to him, and it's just, it's about darn time.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, growing up in that era, maybe a little bit before me, I mean, how many times does kids my age, our age, Jeff, maybe not him, would sit there and pretend like they're the Cobra, and batting. And
how about
or wish he had an arm like him.
Everybody talks about all these great offensive things, but his arm.
Or could run like him.
The best defensive outfielder for a stretch, too.
You were talking about mean to this city, too, but he had a good career in Cincinnati as well. I mean, he ended up in Oakland as well. So
big hits.
It's good for him. And don't underestimate the old Cobra. I mean, he'll get to enjoy this for a while, so that's good.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think about this. If he were alive, if he were playing now, between 75 and 80, 1975 and 80, imagine the money he would have made for the player he was.
Well,
You know what I think about
MVP,
too, guys?
right?
I did this with Leland. You go up to the Hall of Fame and do like a personal tour, and they guide you through and show you everything behind the scenes, give you the greatest experience of the Hall of Fame. Dave gets to see that. Dave gets to have that moment in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. I'm telling you, there's no experience like getting to trail Leland and do a story on that. So I'm happy for Dave in that respect.
no question. I think everybody is, so congratulations. Let's talk about another thing that's pressing, and that is spending. We've seen crazy numbers being thrown around here, guys, like $750 million potentially to Juan Soto. Who would have thought someone would get better than Ohtani a year later? Potentially that can happen. Jeff, the Pirates have got to do something. There's nothing in the works right now, it seems. They normally just go about it with a $2 million, a $4 million, a $3 million player. These, and it adds up to 40, whatever it adds up to. But it doesn't make a difference. What should they do given this young pitching staff they have?
Yeah, and that's kind of why I brought up Parker. If he would have done that in '78, they wouldn't have been able to afford him in '79 because of the way baseball is. But that being said, well, I mean, economics are just out of control. Soto's could go to like 3 teams.
Well, I mean, but that's
it's a broken league.
But you still can't. You still, if you want to, if Bob Nutting wants to, he can spend whatever he wants.
But I think you could do it on one player.
Right. I'd rather.
You can't afford multiple superstores. Go out and go make a splash.
Yep.
Go get Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
Go try to get Christian Walker. I don't care what it costs you. You want to stop billboards and all that other stuff? Go make a move like that.
Plus, they have to, don't they, Jason? Look at this young starting pitching staff.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 separate discussions here. The conversation around Juan Soto and what rich teams are able to do versus everybody else in the league is just flat out stupid. And the fact that Major League Baseball can't see that and how much it's prohibiting the sport from growing, I can't even explain it. But as far as the Pirates, I mean, if you're not going to add to a team with Paul Skeens on it, what are we doing here? When are you going to add? They're getting Paul Skeens for basically $800K. Spend that money somewhere else. The past 2 off seasons via trade and free agency, they've spent roughly $35 additional million. Okay, that's not great, but I will take that. I'll take and spend a large chunk at first base, spend a large chunk in the outfield, maybe a little bit on a reliever. And you know what? That would send a pretty good message to fans that we're serious, we want to win. That's the priority right now. There will still be complaints, but it's better than where we're at.
I have
right
30 seconds. It's almost like having a rookie quarterback in the NFL, isn't it? When you have a Skeens at that price.
Yeah, you need to go out and improve the team somewhat. First of all, Jason, about the league real quick, what can they do? I mean, there's nothing the league can do to prevent Juan Soto from making $750 million.
They need to put a cap in, but they're not going
to. Well, that's what they have to do, but they're not.
It's not going to happen. Nobody will allow that to happen. As for the Pirates, man, they got to add somebody. Your window's this big, man, and it's getting tighter and tighter. And if you don't do it now, you're going to have to wait another 10 years before a guy like Skeens comes around again.
And if you want to sign Paul Skeens for even a year after arbitrary, if it ever comes to that, this kind of stuff will help him make a decision. If you're not going to spend money, then probably you're not going to get him at all. Anyway, we got to take a break. When we come back, the Penguins have turned things around. What about Tristan Jarry? Have we seen some good things from him? And will they continue? That's next on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Penguins followed a dud in New York with a 5-2 win over Toronto. That's a good Toronto team. Some think it's a Stanley Cup team. So go around the horn here, Jason. I'll start with you. Tristan Jarry improved. 10 days ago, we were talking about what the Penguins are going to do, finish last, trade people, fire coach, whatever the case. Now it's different. Are they a legit playoff team in your mind as they are
They
playing?
can be, Bob. And I thought they would be at the beginning of the season. And that's not saying that things are great in Penguins land. It's saying that half the teams in the NHL make the playoffs, and that's crazy. I was in New York on Friday, and if they would have won that game, they would have jumped into playoff position.
Over the Rangers, right?
Over the Rangers. Now, granted, those teams have a few games in hand, but that tells me they can do it. They can get to a playoff spot if Tristan Jarry plays like this. I think they could even win a round, and that might sound like an insane take, but I do think they have the talent. No, they don't have the depth to make a run, and I don't know over time if they're going to hold up 5-on-5 and protecting leads and whatever else. But, yeah, I do think they can do enough to get to the playoffs and maybe win a round.
Yeah, winning a round is an insane take because it hasn't happened in like 7 or 8 years, right?
That's all right.
I think if they get to the playoffs, they can win it with that talent.
Hey,
yeah.
I think you got to give Sullivan.
Win a round, Mark.
I think
a round.
Yeah, which they haven't done since whatever. I think you got to give Sullivan a lot of credit. I mean, whatever buttons he's pushing, just like Tomlin, we were talking about Steelers, making Jarry down to Wilkes-Barre. I mean, it seems like it's worked, so you have to give him a lot of credit for their turnaround.
They're playing a lot more responsible, but don't be fooled. If Jari continues on this run, trade him.
Ooh,
Trade him.
Trade him. Because you think Joel Blomquist is ready to play, is what
Trade
you
him.
think? Okay.
Because you could get something for him.
You can certainly do that. That'll be interesting to follow, but right now they just want to get him back playing well so they can be in position to do that. All right, listen, if you're tired in the market, or I should say tired, if you're looking, I'm tired, that's why I said that. If you're looking into the new market for a new vehicle, don't settle for anything less than #1 Cochran's Kia Clearly Better car buying experience. You can enjoy exclusive clear-cut pricing where you get their most competitive offer up front. Take advantage of exceptional lease and finance rates and choose from a lineup of nearly 200 new models. Think about that. Experience clearly better car buying at #1 Cochran Kia. In-store, online, you can do it both, cochrankia.com. All right, before we go, prediction time. Eagles, Steelers. Jeff, Steelers are 4.5-point underdogs. Your take?
Give me those points, but I think the Eagles win. But, hey, the Eagles had a really tough game with Carolina. It's not like they're playing at a high level or didn't on Sunday.
This is perfect. Prediction, pain. This is an Eagles. Just like Clubber Lang would say, Eagles win this one pretty easily.
Ooh.
I'm saying the Steelers sneak. I guess it would be technically an upset. But I think the Steelers win.
All right, there you go. You'll see that game coming up this coming weekend. Then it's off to Baltimore and then Kansas City. By the way, that game is on KDKA, so don't worry about buffering. We'll have it for you here. Chiefs and Steelers on Christmas Day. That's your gift. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.